please share your experiences on scope creep.
Yes, learn about AI, learn about all this stuff. But the 3 things I think are the key to being able to really get any business off the ground is
that just doesn't exist anymore, right? Something like this could work. It could really that could really help.
Welcome back.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
So yesterday, oh God, and I'm a tech guy.
We had an operator error.
Is that what we're calling it? The operator error?
The software failed to start.
So yesterday, we recorded our entire episode.
Mm-hmm. Hour and 42 minutes.
And I only hit record on one of the cameras. Fortunately, it was my camera because that's one only people really want to see anyway.
I know. We'll call that the monologue show.
So we're so we're gonna try to salvage that info and see if we can turn it into just an audio podcast because you can kind of hear Gummy. So we're gonna see if we can make that work.
We'll see if we can get some software
let's
to work some magic.
Software can make something happen. So I do apologize.
That's all good.
I am so sorry about that because it was actually a fun episode too.
Correct. But here's the weird thing. Like, I've been recording all kinds of video and podcasts and all kinds of stuff for a long time. And I always thought, like, one day a recording is going to go wrong.
Yeah.
It just happens, right? So, like, we've had a failure with the software. We recorded an entire episode, 40 some odd minutes. It looked like it recorded.
Yeah.
We went in to actually look at the file, and the file was empty.
Wow.
It was 42 minutes of nothing.
Really?
Yeah. It was like,
that's weird.
the camera didn't pick up, like there was something that just went wrong.
That is strange.
And it's just stuff, it comes with doing
But at
this
least
stuff,
you hit
right?
record.
Yes, because we had 42 minutes of nothing. So we must have hit the record button, right? But I've also done one, fortunately it was a short one. We were doing like a 12-minute like introduction to something.
Yeah.
And we thought we hit the record button. It looked like it was recording. We did the entire presentation. We were like, yeah, that was the best one ever. High five. We went over and like, oh, it didn't actually record. It took a photo.
It took a photo. Well, that happened yesterday. So it will not happen today. I've double, triple, quadruple checked.
Let's
check again just to be safe. Sure. All right. Yeah, let's see. That is definitely recording, and that is definitely recording. All right, so we are good. All right, so let's get into it. Today we're back to start the startup ideas subreddit.
That's the underscore one, right?
That's the startup underscore ideas.
Okay.
I don't know if there's one without, but we'll just say startup underscore ideas. All right. Let's see here.
Nope.
No, we're gonna skip that. Okay.
Look. So let's just settle this once and for all.
Okay.
When something starts with looking for a partner that's a software engineer
or a CTO or whatever
it is, that means you need to go hire someone. That does not mean you're looking for a partner.
So this is a blanket statement. Should we start the show with that every time?
It's a blanket statement that if you just have an idea and you need someone else to execute all of it, that means you have an idea and you better have the funding to go get the person that needs to execute. Like, that's just my opinion.
Okay, so that's going to be our blanket statement going forward.
Blanket statement.
But I do think at least once a show, if we see one of those, we should reiterate that PSA.
We should, and we should look at it and go, oh, by the way, yes.
All right. Well, then we'll jump into this one.
Just a quick reminder, if you're listening, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us a lot.
And don't forget the like button. That helps too.
The like button is really good.
The like button's a good thing.
So, okay, so enough with the plugs. Let's
get back to it.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that. Right. So this is from Random Creature 007. It says shoe manufacturing. Ooh, I like shoe manufacturing. Any shoe designer, specifically sports shoes with manufacturing context and experience, could you please DM looking to understand the scope of setting up a unit and understanding a global demand? I am based out of India and very serious in exploring the space. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
You know anything about shoe manufacturing? Somehow I have a feeling, for 5 years I was doing shoe manufacturing over in Quebec or something. I know you have a story like that. I know you do.
I do not.
Oh, come on.
But I do have a family member.
Okay.
That is in the clothing, and he's actually in the riding boots business.
The riding boots?
Riding
like horse riding?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
And all of his clothing is horse related.
Very cool.
But one of the things that I found out a few years ago that, the shoe sole that goes under the shoe. Do you know there's only like 4 or 5 manufacturers of shoe soles in the world? Yeah.
Get out of here.
There's only a handful. Now, They started making a lot more of these like foam soles.
Yeah.
So since they started making those, there's been more. But yeah, a few years ago, there was only a handful of shoe sole manufacturers.
So are we talking about like non-sneaker soles? Because I thought the sneakers and the soles all came together, but I could see like the leather soles and stuff being manufactured separately.
So it varies, right? So like sneakers, a lot of them have that foam thing.
Right.
So that needs a piece of rubber attached and all that stuff. So that unit,
Oh,
whatever
okay.
the shoe attaches to, there was only a handful of manufacturers that actually made that.
Wow. So wait, does Nike like make their own? Adidas?
No,
they don't make their own.
No, they didn't used to. So I think now that it's basically spray foam, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not spray foam, but it's like
it's molded.
Yes.
Yeah, I got it.
So since they started doing that, there's more manufactured that entered the space. But yeah, the shoe business is a fascinating one because here in the US, we tend to think of shoes and we think of manufacturers. Right. So it was funny because I was down in Colombia where I have a couple of employees, and I was talking to my guy that does a lot of our video editing. And we were at the mall, and he was wearing his only pair of shoes, which is not uncommon in that part of the world, that you own like a couple of pairs of shoes and that's it. And I was like, listen, I'll get you a pair of shoes. So we walk into all these shoe stores, and he's like, no, I don't like these. I don't like these. I don't like these. And I'm like, what do you like? And he's like, I like Vans.
Oh, good shoes.
Like, out of everything, you like Vans. So we started talking about like shoes and brands and all that stuff. And it's one of those, like, we have brand names. We have Skechers, we have Nike, we have Adidas, we have Puma, right? Like brands everybody knows. There's a handful that are up and coming. What they're called, Hoka, Hoku, whatever.
Hoku, I think, something like that. Hoka, maybe.
What's the one with the N on it? That's also a brand that's been around for a while.
Hoka is the one, by the way. The one with the N on it. New Balance?
Yeah, New Balance, right?
Yeah.
So we have a bunch of like brand names in the US, and that's what we're used to buying. So just for shits and giggles, we grabbed a cup of coffee. Phenomenal coffee in Colombia, by the way. And we were sitting outside the mall. And I told him, I want you to count out of all the people that drive by, how many people in this country, where we're sitting right now in this town, are actually wearing brand name shoes.
Okay.
Because if we were sitting in the US, it would probably be 9 out of 10 people would be walking by in a shoe brand you recognize.
But you can tell that with sneakers, but you can't necessarily tell that with dress shoes.
Correct. So like we counted the ones you could obviously, like if it was
we
a
see
sneaker,
the logo on it, right?
Like if they were wearing leather shoes, it's harder to tell.
Right.
But yeah, it was something like 9 out of 10 people that walked by were wearing a no brand sneaker, like some random off brand.
Yeah.
And because this guy is in India, I don't really care where you are. There are a bunch of people that buy shoes because shoes are comfortable. They don't care what name is on them.
Right.
They care about how they look, how they feel, which is why shoe brands kind of, I say they come and go, because like you can go on Amazon and like I've been finding golf shoes lately, for example, from these absolutely.
And who cares what the brand is? As long as they look and as long as they feel good.
Feel good, right? Yeah. So, and because, we're lucky enough that I can order shoes off of Amazon, I can try them on, I can walk around them, right, for half a day, whatever.
And if you don't like them, send them back.
Send them back. And I have been pleasantly surprised that some of these no-name manufacturers that I've ordered shoes from, because like I've tried the FootJoys, I've tried a lot of these brand names. They're $140, $170 for some of these shoes. And like they don't feel comfortable long term. Like they're great when you first put them on, but when you start walking in them, they're horrendous. And I found literally like no name, no brand shoes that I literally didn't want to take off after I left the golf course.
They were comfortable.
Correct.
If it wasn't for the spikes, you'd wear them in the house.
Right. But with anything with like shoe, clothing, all of that stuff, all of this is manufactured in the same, 5 countries?
Yeah.
India, Pakistan, China.
Right.
All of your contacts, all of your pipelines, everything is going to be there. If you're looking to get into product manufacturing, there's 1 or 2 trade shows in China, I think, every year, specifically for the clothing and shoe industry.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
So one of the best places to start is going to one of those shows, finding a shoe type or shoes that you like, and then literally they will, if you order enough of them, they will slap your brand name on it and ship it to you.
But I have to imagine that. So yesterday, which people probably won't see, but yesterday we were talking about these for solar panels, right? Where they have these systems set up in China.
Yep.
It's a whole package. You just get it delivered. Blah blah blah.
Yep.
I think there might be something like that for shoe. There's probably something like that for shoe manufacturing as well.
There is, and
there has to be.
There is for clothing as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of the clothing that you get at department stores in the U.S., for example, is not designed or anything in the U.S.
Right.
So what happens is there are showrooms across the world. So I just happen to know that there is a showroom, for example, up in New York.
Okay.
So there are clothing importers, meaning they could be a middleman, they could be a brand. What they do is they go to China and they pick up samples of hundreds of pieces of clothing and they bring it to these showrooms. And then these department stores figures will go to the showrooms and look at all these clothing and go, we'll take that, and that. The distributor then places that order in China, has the brand name sewn onto the garment, and then brings it in and ships it to the stores.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay.
That's how a lot of these function. I'm not saying everything functions like this, but
like,
yeah.
so like this person here, you wouldn't even have to really do you wouldn't even do the manufacturing. You would, even though it's in China or in India, you could have a system that's already set up, pay them to manufacture it. Maybe you have some say in the design and such, maybe not, and then have them manufacture it. And then, so now now that we have it designed, what do we do with it, right? How do we sell it? Now, shoes are a tough one, right? Shoes are one of the things where, and you're right, you can get them delivered to you and you can go and try them on, send them back, etc. Now, again, this is the U.S. We're a little different than a lot of other countries, but shoe stores are still big. You still see a lot of shoe stores around because people want to go, and it's different than putting on a shirt. Like I feel comfortable ordering a shirt online. It's the right size, it comes, blah, blah, blah. But with shoes, you got to feel it.
Yes. And also the sizing, like a 9 isn't always a 9.
It's never between manufacturers. It's always different.
Yes. Yeah. Which is odd because it's supposed to be based on an actual system, right?
It totally is not.
Yeah. I mean, the big thing is when you get into any type of manufacturing like this, whether it's shoes, whether it's clothes, the first thing you have to decide is, who am I going after as a target market? Am I going after the cheap shoe market?
Right.
Am I going after luxury shoes? Because that also determines who you pick for manufacturing. Once you decide what level shoe you want to be, that also determines who your audience is, right? So I always use the cars analogy. Bugatti doesn't have to sell 10,000 cars a day.
Right.
Kia does, right? But it's because Kia is set up to make money on mass producing and selling a lot of it. Bugatti does not. They sell what, like 1,000 cars a year, whatever it is. It's not even
their cars aren't that expensive though, right?
No. They're cheap. Like I have 2 sitting in my
2 in your garage right
now. But it's understanding, and this is where a lot of people in business in general go wrong, is that they pick a product and they don't understand who they're selling to. So the product they pick doesn't fit the market they're selling to.
Yep.
It's like that guy, he pulls out an umbrella and he goes, this is a $4,000 umbrella, right? And you look at the umbrella and it's a nice umbrella. It's made from wood. It's fancy. Like it's all that stuff. But why is it a $4,000 umbrella?
Well, because it's like Mary Poppins. It'll take you away and you'll fly home.
Oh, is that what it is?
That's
okay.
What it better be for $4,000. No, I know what you're talking about though. Exactly. Yeah. It's, and you're right. You have to know who your market's going to be. I don't know. Again, I'm assuming they're going to be in the market in India, if they're based in India. But yeah, so I feel like you're right. There's going to be manufacturing is already done. You can kind of just almost like a plug and play, right?
Yep.
Go pay the manufacturer, maybe give them your designs or whatever, have some input on that, and then they'll manufacture, deliver, and you go and then sell the shoes.
You're a distributor and a marketer.
Yeah,
is what it boils down to at that point in time.
I'm guessing that's what they want to do. I'm guessing they want to distribute at that point.
Yeah, if they're looking to
actually be the manufacturer,
That's a whole
That's a
different ballgame.
very different story, right?
Sounds like he wants to get into manufacturing context and experience. So it sounds like he's looking to set up his own like brand and distribution.
Right, but then he says something about global demand, and that's sales, right?
Yes.
So if you're talking about global demand, you're talking about, okay, people that want to buy the shoes. So I would say, unless you already have a manufacturing background or even better facilities, probably stay out of the manufacturing game because you're not going to be able to compete. There's just no way. But the sales portion of it you could do if you make a good product.
And people have to remember that, think of it like a pyramid, right? So if you go into what I call like the Walmart clientele, you're going to have globally 5 billion people you can sell to. If you, on the other hand, are going into the Versace's or the Rolexes of the world, that's now 0.5% of the population that can afford to buy your stuff. Doesn't mean you're going to be any less profitable.
Right.
Like you can be profitable as Walmart, you can be profitable as Rolex. What it boils down to is you have to understand supply, demand, image, branding. It's all of those things that come into play. And that's with any business.
Yeah.
Like, this is where stuff gets really muddled, especially if you're like a landscaper, right?
It so reminds me of that. I'm sure you've seen the video of how the Yeti was created.
Oh, you showed it to me.
I showed it to you, right?
Yes.
It was incredible. It's so true. It's just like, hey, we'll come up with a product, and well, who are we going to sell it to? We're going to sell a lot of them, or we're going to sell a few of them. We're going to sell a few of them. We're going to put a high price tag on it. We're going to sell a lot of them. We'll put a lower price tag on it.
Correct.
It's so funny.
And it's kind of it's kind of like a joke, but at the same time, it's
real.
True.
It's solely real.
Like if you want to sell it at a higher price point, your quality better match the price point, right? If you want to sell at a lower quality, then yeah, do that. But it's interesting because like we have things in the US like contract manufacturing, right? And we also have store brands. So store brands are manufactured by brand name manufacturers most of the time, right? And so I used to work for a chemical manufacturer. One of my family members used to own a company that made like laundry detergents. And
you must have lived like 18 lifetimes. Because every time I talk to you, there's a new job you had at one point.
No, so I worked for him. This was back when I was doing food sales.
Okay.
So he happened to own the company I was working for doing the food sales, and they purchased this chemical manufacturer. And it made sense because like we were working into industrial kitchens and restaurants and stuff. So part of what got added to what we were selling were like detergents for their dishwashers and like those types of things just got, because it was a natural, we were already talking to them and we were already taking their food orders.
Yeah.
So what was the big deal if do you want the detergent at the same time? Right.
That makes sense.
But what I found out is when they manufacture a store brand, generally in all of these detergents and, all that, there's something called the active chemical.
Yeah, sure.
Right? It's the
active
thing,
ingredient.
Yeah,
right.
It's the thing that actually does the thing you want it to do.
Everything else is a catalyst or something like that. Sure.
So like with dishwashing detergent, for example, one of the things that changed from the brand name to the store brand was the proportion of salt to active ingredient. So in the store brand, there is more salt, less active ingredient.
Wow.
So it has the same consistency. If you spray it on the table,
you would never know.
You would never know. But the difference is there is less active ingredient in the store brand than there is in the actual brand name.
And you can use that detergent to clean the shoes that this guy's going to manufacture.
But what it comes down to is you're now using more of the store brand product to get the same result, right? So once again, it comes back to the shoes. You can buy a $200 pair of shoes that lasts you 10 years. You probably cannot buy a $40 pair of shoes that will last you 10 years. Right. So it becomes a volume game as well. The lower in the hierarchy you go, meaning the cheaper your product is, the more often you are relying on people to replace it.
Sure.
So it's...
No, that's a very good point. And so, Random Creature 007, good luck. I would say look into ready-made manufacturing processes that will create your product for you, and then go ramp it on sales, start selling.
Yep.
All right, let's move on. There's terrible.
It's
OG looking for co-founder.
Let me guess. He needs a tech person.
All right, I'm going to go into it, but we're not going to read it. I just
Okay.
want to see if it's what kind of co-founder. Looking for someone very. Well, it doesn't tell you.
He doesn't say anything.
No.
Okay.
In fact, my first comment is technical or non-technical.
Right.
Because everybody needs a technical co-founder. All right, let's see.
Oh,
What?
just launched. Oh,
No, it's a sales pitch.
yeah, but it's funny because remember the other day we were talking about straight razors?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it is. It's a lifetime razor.
Yeah.
You just have to maintain it.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
Like you can go through 100 or 1,000 Gillette blades in the same time you go through one straight razor. But it's time savings.
Yes, but how many people do you think are actually going to maintain it?
Very few.
Yeah,
we don't
very
want to
few.
take the time to do it. It's
Yeah.
the same thing. Like everything is becoming like washing machines, right? I know this is off topic. Why is it more expensive to fix a washing machine than to buy a new one?
Go ahead.
Right? So
I feel like, I mean, the answer is yes, right? It is.
correct.
The question is why.
Right. It's because it's all become about the point of purchase, right? Is you want to make it as cheap as possible for someone to buy it. And what we're sacrificing is we're now going through 5 washing machines in the same time we previously used to go through 1. But it's all because we have this perception that cheaper is better, right?
Right.
Everybody wants to service the Walmart customer. Nobody wants to service the Lexus customer.
Sure.
It's weird how, especially in the US, we've moved to this, let's make it as cheap as possible and have people replace it frequently.
So I've watched a video the other day that said, I can't remember who it was, but I was watching a video the other day that said that car manufacturers don't make their money on selling cars. They make their money on selling parts.
Yeah, service, parts and service.
Parts and service,
Yep.
exactly. And one of the reasons why you're never going to see a new car manufacturer get into the game is because you don't make money on selling cars. You make money on selling parts. Well, most cars that are 1, 2, 3, 4 years old don't need parts. Maybe tires. That's about it, right? Maybe brakes. But engines, things like that, you don't see that in 2, 3, 4-year-old cars. You start seeing that in 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old cars, right? So it's going to be 7 to 10 years before someone's going to need your parts. We're not going to be able to sustain your business that long without making money.
Right.
Right?
But that's we also talked about it the other day. This is what makes the electric car industry very interesting.
It's unique. No,
right?
very different. Very different. I'm talking about combustion.
But like, think about how frequently does an electric car need maintenance compared to a traditional combustion engine?
It's the only thing that I'm aware of is other than like the tires, because the tires obviously wear down.
Tires, brakes.
Tires and brakes is the batteries. The batteries are the only thing that generally need to be replaced. Even that's 7 years, right?
Okay.
5 years at the most.
Yeah.
I mean, at the least.
It's just interesting that the electric car manufacturers can't use the traditional combustion model engine. Let's build it so that it starts breaking as soon as the warranty expires.
Right.
Right. Another.
Because the only thing that's going to break is the battery.
Yeah.
It's the only thing you can break.
Yeah.
Everything else is software related.
Yeah. It's funny. I was talking to a guy not too long ago that's in the
planned obsolescence.
Planned obsolescence?
Yeah. That's what they do with like a lot of the computers and stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
supposedly,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying it happens,
Yeah.
but supposedly a lot of our communication devices, right, like phones and stuff, some of the manufacturers write code, supposedly write code into the operating system that after a certain period of time, things start slowing down on purpose.
Interesting.
To make it seem like, oh, my phone's dying. I need to get a new phone.
Yeah. So, yeah, another industry that's infamous for this are travel trailers.
What do you mean?
So travel trailers, when they build and test them, do you know how many trips they build them for?
No. What?
22 trips.
Why?
Because the average family uses it 4 times a year.
Okay.
The warranty's 4 years.
Okay. It's 16. There you go.
Yeah.
And give them a little more.
Yep. But they are fully expecting things to start breaking.
Really?
After about 3 to 4 years.
I didn't know that.
That's why the warranty. I always say, look at the warranty behind a product.
Yeah.
Because they design it to function perfectly within the warranty time.
Right.
Once the warranty time is out, they are aware that it is more likely to start breaking at that point in time.
I mean, I've seen that happen. I've seen where cars have 36,000 mile warranties, and at like 38,000, the car's having problems.
Yeah. Right. And it's funny because like, then you look at manufacturers like Toyota and Hyundai, and they're like, oh yeah, 10 years, 100,000 miles. You're like,
car must be pretty good. If they're standing behind it for that long.
Correct.
That car's gonna be on the road for a while.
It should, right? But it's funny that people don't look at warranties as an indicator of how long something will last or how long before it starts breaking.
Right.
Because breaking and lasting are not the same thing.
Are we even on a question right now?
I know we started talking about random, but this is all like stuff that from a business perspective, like you have to think about as the servicer, right?
Right.
Like let's say you're a basement waterproofing guy. And
that's so random.
I know. It's just
Go ahead.
But okay, so let's say you warranty your work.
Yeah.
Okay, as a basement waterproofing guy. How long are you going to warranty it for?
Yeah.
All right. Do you know how long the average waterproofing, if done right, forbid extenuating circumstances like
earthquakes or whatever,
right,
yeah.
How long it should last? Probably, right? Do you know that waterproofing lasts, call it 10 to 12 years? I don't know how long it actually lasts. I have no idea. Right? Why not slap a 10-year warranty on your work? Because you know the chances of something going wrong are absolutely nominal.
So that's probably the same thing with roofs, right? When they put the roof on and they give you those 20-year warranty on the shingles.
Yep.
With the exception of like incredibly high winds, what's going to happen to that shingle?
Right.
It's going to crack out over time, but it's going to take years for that to happen.
Yeah. But once again, they know how long the product lasts, which is why they can warranty it.
Crazy. All right. So, here's a good one here. So, I am truly crazy. Not me, but this person. I am truly crazy says, how about this idea? I want to make a plant robot, an intelligent plant robot that combines AI plant care, interactive pet-like behavior, and smart home features. Designed for those who love plants and value a smart, connected lifestyle. Nora is here to bring technology together at your desk. So they gave it a name, Nora, cute. So whether this is a troll or not, I don't know, but let's assume it's not. All right.
Okay.
So plant robots. So let's put aside the actual walking robots. Let's just talk about some type of AI for actually, a device so this is a bell, but we're not going to use the bell portion of it, but like an AI device, you can put it into the plant. It'll test the soil. It'll test, it knows what kind of plant it is, and it'll tell you. You're looking at me like funny. Like, well, but that already exists.
He's talking about pet-like behavior.
Yeah, I know. That requires movement.
Yes. Have you not seen the latest CES show?
Oh, of course, absolutely. You know how long it has taken to get to that point? You're not starting that today.
No, they did that last year.
No. But what I'm saying is you're talking about billions of dollars in research and development. That's not something you're going to get off of a Reddit thread. I'm talking about actually taking the idea and making it something that a person by themselves might actually be able to create.
So like a plant sensor.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Take it. Put it in, and it could be Wi-Fi enabled, right? So it could be a smart an IoT thing, Internet of Things, right? And it could hook up to your router, and it could send you notes to your phone, right? Hey, this plant over here, philodendron needs this type of water or something.
Believe it or not, these are the type of stupid problems that people pay to solve.
Oh yeah.
So back in 1995, I had this idea because I was here as an exchange student, and the guy that I was staying with had this obsession with the mail. Like he would go out and check the mail every day. And I can't tell you how many trips he made to the mailbox, and the mail wasn't there yet. So I said, hey, what if I create some kind of like pressure sensor in the mailbox, and when the mail is there, it pushes down on the pressure and a light comes on in the house, right?
That's
it can be like a little red light. And I never did anything with it because I ended up thinking it was a dumb idea. Like that's not a real problem.
Right.
Yeah. Guess what? Guess who just
Ring did it.
Ring did it. And I'm like, I guess it was a real problem.
It was.
Right. So I think stuff like this, because like my wife.
Look, it is 30 right now. It's 30-degree winds and about 18 degrees out there. I do not want to walk to the mailbox if I don't have to.
Right.
So if I had something, let me know that there's mail actually worth getting. That's worth it.
Yeah. But so like with this, my wife loves to have plants, and she does not have a green thumb at all.
Yeah, most of us don't.
Like I think I rebuy plants every year because they last a few months and then
you kill them all.
Correct.
Yeah, I know. We all do.
And
it's a horrible thing.
And I've just come to accept it.
Save the planet.
Exactly. Right. So like I don't buy them anymore for me. I buy them because she likes them. But if there was some kind of thing that I could stick in the pot.
Actually, the pot itself.
Or the pot itself.
The pot itself should do it.
If that had like sensors built in saying,
you tell the pot what kind of plant it is.
Yep. And it tells you
I like it.
The humidity level is too low for this plant, whatever.
It needs more sunlight.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Because I know for a fact that there are apps right now that exist where you can scan your plant and it'll tell you everything about it. How to care for it, if it needs like little plant food, whatever, how much sun it should get. Combine that with the pot, right? And then the pot is telling you on your phone or wherever, here's what you need to do to this plant. It's got to be moved. It's got to be this. It's got to be that.
Theoretically, the only
Beethoven.
the only the only two things you would really need for that, I'm guessing, is a humidity and a light sensor, right? And then just software.
Yeah. Yeah. See, not a terrible idea at all.
Not a terrible idea.
Right? You can take an idea about pet behavior and you can turn it into something that's actually
functional.
Something. Well, I mean, it's cute. I like the idea of the interactive pet behavior, but you're not going to be able to create that.
No.
This, however, you could create.
Because if I had a robot that cares for my plant and has interactive pet-like behavior, it better vacuum as well.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Like
Rosie the robot from the Jetsons.
Yes.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that's kind of because we have all these individual smart things now, right? Like we have the smart light bulbs, we have the smart vacuums, we have all these smart things. Eventually, people are going to start combining them, right? Like they combined a toaster with a convection oven and called it an air fryer.
Yeah,
right.
It's the greatest thing on earth. Have you used them? I know, Mr. Culinary background, Mr. Michelin star. Guess what? For the rest of us who just want to heat up some French fries, they're fantastic.
Yes. So I didn't buy an air fryer. I bought a small convection oven, which theoretically is the same thing.
The same thing.
Yeah. And it was just because a lot of times I'm making dinner or lunch for just like, a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
And I don't need to fire up a full oven to make some fries. Right. So it's an oven, just smaller.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that is where we are headed with a lot of this smart technology, is that we're going to stop individualizing it and it's going to become a unit that does more than one thing. Right. So like in this case, it's going to be a vacuum that also scans your plants, right? Because you said they already have a thing where you can scan the plant, right? So why wouldn't you be able to put a camera on top of a vacuum that is already going around the house?
That's true. I actually like the idea of the vacuum that detects the dirt that's being sucked up, and somehow that's useful knowledge. I'm not sure how yet.
Like pollen and
like here. Got it. I got it.
Okay.
Right. So we're supposed to every 3 months change the filters in our HVAC at home, right?
Every month.
Every month. I was every 3 months. Like once a quarter.
Depends on what type of filter.
Okay, so
if you have the 3-inch,
so often.
If you have the 3-inch filters, I think it's quarterly.
Oh, really?
If you have the tiny I
have the 1 inches.
Yeah, you're supposed to swap them out pretty much every month.
Oh, then I haven't been doing it right for all these years. Point being, had I known, right?
And you have a dog.
Imagine
too.
if your vacuum could detect that. You're vacuuming, like, hey, it's time to change the filter. There's too much pollen in the house. Something like that.
Should be able to. I mean,
that would be cool.
Even my air purifier senses when it's become too dense, and I need to change the filter. So that should be able to tell me at what point, there's too much dirt in the air. So this could all be tied together.
There's all kinds of ways of doing that. Yeah. But anyway, for this particular idea, I do like the idea of the pots telling you what's up with the plants, right?
I do too.
Plant is dying. Plant needs water. Plant needs this. Or
I don't like the interactive pet-like behavior.
Oh, I'd love it, but you're not going to be able. You're not going to be able.
Do you really want to pet a robot? Do you really want a robot barking at you when you come into the house?
Okay, so hold on. Now, wait a minute. Let me back up. Back up about 8 or 9 years. Do you remember the Zuzu pets?
No.
Okay. They were about this big. They were like little hamsters, and they had like little wheels on the bottom, right? But you couldn't really see the wheels because they were covered by fur and stuff. They were the cutest little things. They looked like actual hamsters, and they had a motor in them, and so they would just kind of go all over the place. And they made the cutest little sounds, right? And everyone loved them. They were for like about 6 months. They were it. They were the thing, and everybody.
Nope.
I mean, they were like you would buy like these tunnels for them, and they would go around.
Nope.
Everybody loved the Zuzu pet. It was so cute, so much fun.
It's like Garbage Pail Kids. It's like all this like random stuff that.
Yeah, but they were interactive, and they would kind of play with you, so to speak.
So
right?
my 4-year-old daughter last year came to me and she's like, "Here, Daddy," and I'm like, "What is it?" She's like, "It's a pet rock. It's something you don't have to take care of. You can just put it on your nightstand." And I'm like, "That's perfect. You're 4 years old and you already figured me out. That's what I want. A pet rock that does nothing. It's just
I don't have to take it out. I don't have to feed it. I don't have to care. It doesn't care if I come and go.
Correct. They can gather dust. It doesn't matter. Like that's my type of pet-like behavior.
That's right. Just keep it away from water.
Yes.
Keep it away from water. You don't want any any erosion.
So,
all right.
So we're saying we like the plant care part of this, not the other so much parts.
You're not going to build an AI robot. You're just not. All right. Look, maybe this person has millions of dollars. I mean, good luck. You know, it's going to cost you more than that to get into that game.
Right.
But for a heck of a lot less, you can get into some type of plant care system, and I think that's probably the way to go. All right, so good luck to you. Who was this? This was I Am Truly Crazy. Well, you are if you're trying to build AI robots, but sure, why not? All right, let's see. Dare we?
A social app that connects people with the same proximity? Oh,
I'm curious. All right, this is from Biz Jake. It says, a social app that connects people within the same proximity. I was on a road trip when a sudden blizzard forced me to take shelter in a small rundown hotel in the middle of nowhere. Sounds like a book. I think they're starting a book, right?
Misery.
To my surprise, more people started misery. More people started arriving, and now there are about 30 people packed into this little hotel. And then the man was killed. I'm just kidding. No. That got me thinking about an idea for a social app. The app would show people who are nearby with the option to set a range that fits your preferences. It could help you connect with others in your immediate area. I see this being useful in situations like this, unexpected gatherings in unfamiliar places, as well as on college campuses and apartment complexes, or any other social setting. It would make networking and meeting new people easier and more convenient. Key features: proximity-based connection, customer range setting, real-time updates, in-app messaging, user profiles. I understand there are many safety issues, so I've thought of the following: identity and phone verification, profile badges, etc. With that said, is this feasible? From what I've seen, there aren't any large competitors. Any insight would be helpful. Thank you. Okay,
so what this sounds like?
What?
It sounds like a matchmaking app.
Well, maybe it's more like I'm here. Who else is here? Right? Not necessarily for dating, but just who else is here? Like, you know, and that shares my interests or something like that, right? So if I go on there and I'm like, you know, I'm a beer. I love beer, like good beer and wine, right?
We had this feature back in the day. I believe it was called a bar, where you would go.
So let's digitize the bar,
and you would like bump into random people.
Okay, I'm not joking. I'm not joking. Yeah. You know this.
Yes.
That the art of conversation is gone.
The art of starting a conversation.
Yes, you and I are probably the last generation of people that can easily go up to people and start a conversation.
Yes.
People 10, 15 years younger than us have a very difficult time doing it in a lot of cases.
I want to know who I'm talking to before I start a conversation. I want to make sure that they are interested in
seriously.
In
just
soccer,
go talk to someone, right?
But learn something new.
Put that aside. Okay, let's give them some good advice, right? So let's say we're traveling through somewhere in Europe. You're in Germany or something like that, right? Again, we'll use the bar because I get really good beer in Germany. Oh man, some of the best beer in the world. And anyway, I'll tell you about the Hofbrau House one day, by the way. Oh, woo. Anyway, so, and you want to know who's there? Well, we'll talk about the Hofbrau House, right? It's a big, giant cafeteria, right? You walk in and you get your beer and pretzel.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all they have. It's fantastic. I think they have some like hot dog type thing too, but that's it. That's all you have. There's hundreds of people in there, right? So if you have the app, who's in here that's looking to just talk, just to hang out with someone else, share a beer or something like that. I could see that as being useful. Not for dating, right? But just for, hey, who's in the area? Yeah. Who likes soccer? Wants to talk about some soccer matches or something like that. Or as they call football over there, right?
It's it's matchmaking. It's
social. It's social matchmaking. Social, because when you say matchmaking, I'm thinking romantic.
I'm not talking about like dating.
Yeah.
Like
you're right. Social matchmaking.
Yeah,
right. I feel like there's got to be something out there that does that.
So this is kind of what Facebook started as, right? Like it would match you based on connections, but they never had the proximity thing, right?
No, I know for sure there was an app that did this.
I'm not sure.
It was actually tested in Philly. It was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. As I remember seeing screenshots of your location and then other people
around you. But you had to be connected to them to see it, right?
No.
Oh, it was just like random?
Because if you allowed yourself to be exposed, anyone could see your location.
That sounds wrong.
Okay, fine. If you allowed your profile to be viewed, be public, okay, anyone could see your location, and I could, and there was, I can't remember what it was, but there was something like that. But you could take it a step further, right?
So
who is this person? Oh, this person likes soccer. I like soccer. Okay, and they happen to be at a soccer bar. Okay. Hey, I'm coming in. What's good there right now? Look, I'm enjoying this. So I'll meet you there.
I will be the first one to say it that social media and all this stuff was meant to bring us closer together. And if anything,
it's driving us apart.
I think
100%.
I'm not going to say that it's driven us apart. I'm going to say that it's isolated people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that have ended up isolated because they don't have the ability to go out and talk to people and make friends. They don't know how to.
They've lost that. They've lost that ability.
If this app does nothing more than allow you to go out and start talking to more people, I could totally get behind an app like this.
I'm going to give you 2 examples of why I say it's driven us apart. Okay, number one, and these are just images I see on online, like GIFs or whatever, but or memes, I should say. Number one is the 30 years ago. It was so there's 2 pictures of a mom and a kid, right?
Yeah.
30 years ago, it was the mom pulling the kid inside, get inside, it's time to come in, et cetera, et cetera. Now it's mom pulling the kid out, go outside and start meeting people. Right? Because that's what it's come to. It really has. Getting the kids out of the house is almost impossible.
Yeah, I mean, I have, my wife has a cousin that just turned 17.
Yeah.
And I am amazed at the time she spends on her phone communicating with friends through apps like Snapchat versus how much time they actually spend together.
My daughter and her friends used to be in the back of the car together, and they wouldn't talk, but they would communicate on Snapchat and text. I didn't get it. I never understood that. So the second thing is, there was a comedian, I can't remember the guy's name, it's pretty funny. But anyway, he got it right. He's like, 30 years ago, when someone rings your doorbell, who's there? Hey, what's up? Good to see you. Someone rings your doorbell today, you're getting the gun. You're ready.
I know.
You're ready to shoot them.
I said,
who the hell shows up at my house without permission?
So I'm lucky enough that I grew up in a relatively small country, right? And one of the things that I noticed when I moved here in the mid-2000s is the art of stopping by for coffee had started disappearing here.
Yeah, you can't do it.
No, like
you can't just show up unannounced anymore.
It's weird. Like that's
now
what we
it's
used
easy enough to pick up your phone and say, "Hey, I'll be there in 20 minutes."
Yeah,
but
now people just expect.
I would just go to my friend's house, knock on the door. Hey, what's up? Let's go out.
That's what I would do.
Yeah,
right. Like I'd swing by, like, hey, let's have a cup of coffee and have a chat.
It feels like technology and social media are just driving.
So we're kind of saying the same thing. Is like we've technology and social media has given us the ability to isolate more because we know nobody will show up at our doorstep anymore. Like I jokingly asked my wife, do we need a doorbell anymore? And she's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, is there any point in time where someone shows up at our house when we aren't expecting them.
Yeah.
Other than possibly the mail delivery guy that requires a signature for a package.
Or during election year when they come to your door to take who you're voting for. Right? Like, that's about it.
Is there anybody else that shows up at our house unannounced? And she sat there and thought about it. And we have one friend that occasionally will just swing by.
How dare he?
I know.
What's the matter with him?
Her.
Oh, her.
Yes.
Oh, even worse.
Yeah, I know.
I'm kidding.
But she's in her late 30s. And like, it's funny because she is actively advocating to try to bring communities back together.
Yeah, I love it. That's great.
They just did this thing at their house. They were redoing the entire front of their house, right? Like they were having trees taken down, doing a new patio. And she deliberately had them design an area out front of her house that is big enough to fit 4 chairs and a heater. And I'm like, why would you put this in the front of your house?
Yeah.
Right? Like that's something you would put in the back, right? And she goes, no. Now every Friday night, me and my husband, after dinner, we turn the heater on when it's warm enough, right? Like, so call it 40 degrees plus. And she's like, every Friday night, we go out here and we sit here for a couple of hours and we say hi to every neighbor that walks by or runs by and does whatever.
Offers them a drink. Come on, sit with us. I love that. And that is fantastic.
And she is like, I have been amazed at the number of people that actually are just out for a walk. And they're like, do you know what? And they walk up and they sit and they chat for 15 or 20 minutes and then they go back on their walk.
That's great. That is so great. I love that idea.
I know. She also started organizing a block party. So everybody on their street and the 2 end streets, one Saturday, like the last Saturday of September or whatever, they literally file paperwork. They close off the streets on both ends. Like they get permissions. They have to rent the barricades, all that stuff. And then like 5 families get together and rent bouncy houses and bring out grills. And I remember the first year there was probably, I don't know, call it 30 people that showed up.
Yeah.
This year was the 3rd year they did it.
It's going to be huge. Yeah, it's going to be bigger, I'm sure.
There was probably at least 90 or 100 people that showed up.
That's great.
Right?
And people miss that stuff.
Yes.
I'm telling you, they miss it.
And it was cool because like I got to meet this woman. She's a former dentist from Germany that married a Hungarian guy that moved to the U.S. because he had been living.
You and I are networking groups and things like that, and we do it primarily for business purposes, right? But think about the social aspect of that as well. Imagine just forget about the trying to meet people for the betterment of business. Right. Betterment of yourself. Right? Start meeting people. Oh, wow, you do this, you do that. That is so cool, you know?
So I know we're totally off topic here.
Not really.
No, but
we're not.
I think that also has to do with we live in these protective ideology bubbles.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And people have become afraid that someone might challenge their ideology, regardless of what it's about. So when you talk to strangers, you don't know where they stand ideologically.
Yeah. And you shouldn't care.
No, you should want to talk to them and learn.
No, but what I mean is you shouldn't care if their ideology is different than yours. You should learn from them, try to understand why. And maybe there's something you're not aware of.
People don't do that because it's the social isolation, that social apps and all that stuff. So once again, this guy's idea is like the key question on this app should be, are you open to talk to people that have nothing in common with you? Right? Because my answer would be yes.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to someone that I have nothing in common with because it helps me get a better understanding of other people.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit down and talk to someone that is in my bubble and loves everything I love.
Oh, completely. So I went to Boston. I was on a business trip. I can't remember. It was maybe 5 years ago or something like that. And but it was just me. It wasn't with my family or anything. And I was there for 2 nights. And I remember I don't know anybody here. I don't know anybody in town. It was a work thing. It was a business thing, but I didn't really know the people at the office that I was working with. So I was like, I wish there was a way to just find people, whether that a bar or a restaurant, to just hang out with, for a couple of nights, get to know people. But that just doesn't exist anymore, right? Something like this could work. It could really help.
Like I said, I initially hated the idea, and now the more that I thought about this, once again, if it brings the social back to social media, I would be okay with something like this.
Yeah, that'd be really, really cool. All right, Biz Jake, you got a good idea here. And I hope you've listened to what we said, because you can really take some of the context of what we said and turn this into something. This is pretty cool. I like this. No, seriously, I like it. I think it's a good idea. All right, good luck to you on that. Let's see. Oh, yes. Okay, this is
Scope
I mean,
creep.
you and I both have this issue at all times. All right. So Mahal _tapeworm says, please share your experiences on scope creep. Hello, everyone. I'd like to hear insights and personal experiences with scope creep in the startup world. I'm quite young, and this would be valuable information for me, but also I'd love to come up with an idea to help others. At the moment, I'm exploring options and haven't settled on anything yet. Very keen to hear different perspectives on scope creep. Thank you for reading. You want to start this? Or you want me to start this?
So you deal in the software world?
Oh, yeah.
You deal with this all day, every day.
It is the bane of my existence in the software world. So for those of you who don't know what scope creep is, scope creep, I can't get the words out. Scope creep is you come to an understanding with whether it's the client or the project manager or whoever. I'm going now, again, as the software guy, I'm going to build this, okay? And it's going to look like this. It's going to function like that, et cetera, et cetera. And you have everything thought out of what you're going to do.
Yep.
Before you go any further with that, what you need to understand is non-technical people don't understand the way technical people think. And when you tell me you want something to do X, Y, Z, and ABC, that's all I'm thinking about, is making those 6 things happen. Scope creep is when I'm making that happen and you come in, oh, by the way, can you also make it do this? Or I know I told you to make it do B, but I really need to do B and B.5 as well, or something like that. And it makes it just a little bit different. Sometimes that little difference can add weeks of work.
Yes.
But the non-technical person would never understand it. And I used to give a lecture on this, that how adding a single checkbox to a form on a web page could add 2 weeks worth of work. One checkbox could add 2 weeks worth of work.
Depending on what the function of that is.
I mean, it's obviously taken to its extreme, but yes, a single checkbox could add 2 weeks of work.
If that checkbox adds an and if statement to the code,
good luck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And so people don't understand. So for the non-technical person, they're thinking, oh, you know what? I wanted a checkbox on there. Do you agree to this? Or, would you do this or whatever? Right. And the technical person is like, but that's going to add so much work. And the non-technical person never understands why it's going to add so much work.
So scope creep happens in every industry. It happens in marketing. It happens in all that stuff. And like another one it happens frequently in is like the construction industry, right? And people,
oh my God, yes.
People don't think of that, right? I want to build an addition. Perfect. Here are the drawings. Okay. So the contractor comes in, they put up the studs, they put up the exterior walls, and then you go, oh, it would kind of be cool to have a TV on that wall. Okay, there's no electricity.
There's no electricity there. Right. How are we going to get it there?
Well, now we got
brick behind there.
Now we got to run electric. Okay, I mean, how big a deal is it to run a wire? It's not that big of a deal. So the contractor runs the wire, and then the person goes, you know what would be really cool too? To have an electric fireplace underneath the TV.
Well, now you got to run 220 over there.
Correct. Well, now that's not going to work with the wire we ran, because your TV requires very little, but the electric fireplace requires a lot. So now not only do we have to run a new wire, we have to run a new wire
from the box.
Which
is in the basement on the other side of the house.
Correct, right? Like, and they're like, yeah, but it's just a wire.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's an electrician for 6 hours.
Yeah.
And now we have to drill through and we got to run the wire and pull it. And this is why, like, regardless of what industry you are in, is if you agree to the scope of work, it should be outlined that this is the scope of work.
Yeah.
Anything outside of that is what is a change order or in addition to what you're doing and is not included in whatever I'm charging you. Right. And if you want the pricing up front for whatever you add to the scope, I can do my best to give you that price. And like most contractors know, if they have to run a 220 300 feet, whatever. They know approximately what the price is. In the software industry, it's a little bit harder because it
can be.
Right. It could be, oh, this might take 10 hours. This might take 100 hours. We don't know until we test it. In my world, the marketing world, it's the same thing. Okay, so you want me to design a flyer. Okay, perfect. But you want me to give you a fixed price on what it's going to cost to design that flyer.
Right.
Okay. Well, how many revisions do you get? How much
input do you have?
Are you giving me the photography or am I buying stock photography?
Right. And then are you approving it?
Correct. If I'm buying the stock photography, what type of license do you need? Do you need a license for a picture that's going to be seen 10,000 times, or do you need license for a picture that's going to be seen 100,000 times? Right. Because the price of those two is very different.
Yep.
Are you going to use that picture on your website as well? Are you going to use it on your landing page? Because the license agreement for this photo may not apply to digital assets, right? Yep. So people underestimate not just scope creep, but they underestimate the importance of having something written in place that outlines the exact scope of work.
Yeah.
And in certain areas, scope creep is going to happen regardless, right? You're developing a piece of software and you've gotten it to a certain point and you realize this isn't going to function if I don't add this functionality.
Correct.
Right? Scope creep.
Yeah.
But it's not because you
it's
wanted
inherent
it.
Scope creep because it has to happen in order to make the software function, right?
Correct. Which
as opposed to change scope creep, which is where the original, the manager, whoever wants something to work differently.
Correct. And once again, I love the construction industry when it comes to this because you bring someone out and go, hey, I want to remodel my bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. It's $20,000 to remodel this bathroom. Perfect. Deal done. They start tearing everything out. They tear the drywall out and they go, you have dry rot.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? Well, you quoted me to fix it. Yeah.
I quoted you to
redo your bathroom, right? Not fix.
Right, but people don't understand the difference sometimes. Exactly.
Correct, right? So the bathroom could still be done within your budget, but that doesn't mean that he's going to solve all the problems that he uncovered. And I think specifically in the construction industry, that happens a lot, right? Which is why people always bitch and moan, oh, it was so much more expensive than I thought it would be. Well, it's because the poor guy that gave you a quote didn't know that you had a water leak 6 years ago, right, around your toilet, and now your entire subfloor is moldy and rotten. How was he supposed to know that? Did you tell him you had a water leak? Did you tell him?
Even know you had a water leak?
So yeah, I mean, scope creep, people talk about it in general as if it's a bad thing, but sometimes it is just something that happens naturally.
Right.
If you can minimize it, fantastic.
So I think that's his question. I think his question is what's the best thing to do? How do you minimize scope creep, right? And the best way to do it is honestly just like anything else. You've got to plan, right? You gotta have, that's like building a house. You gotta have those blueprints, right? Whether it's a house or a piece of software, whatever, or marketing, whatever. Have those blueprints and have those blueprints signed off on. Get that person or customer, whoever, to sign that document saying this is exactly what I want.
And I think, who was it that said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah.
Right. So this is where things let's go back to the construction. When you are drawing out those plans, it's at that stage where you should go, it would be cool to have a TV here. It would be cool to have a fireplace here. You don't do it once construction has started. You do it preemptively as much as you can. And I think the best way to prevent scope creep is to plan for the unplannable. And I know that sounds like an oxymoron, right? But you and I play this game called the, what if game, right? Remember we played what if I get sued? Right. That's how you write a contract.
Yeah.
Right? Is we play the what if game. What if a website goes down for 32 days? What if a domain name that we registered expires and someone else picks it up? What if we put up a stock photo, but we find out that the stock photo is of a competitor's equipment, right? The competitors could come out. We have to prove that it was now a stock. There's all these what ifs. And I think the best way to avoid scope creep is playing the what if game for long enough before you actually start doing anything. Right. And it's funny because I talked to a software developer years ago, and that's when I realized that a lot of software developers think of it, well, the software is just supposed to work flawlessly. And my question was always, what happens if something goes wrong? What happens if I push the next button and it doesn't go to the next? Then what? And they're like, well, that's not supposed to happen. And I'm like, no, but what it does, what do you do? It's going to, right? Like someone pushes the next button and loses internet. Then what? Are we storing that information? Like, so that's what, like, the what if game is one of the best things you can do for an extended period of time before you start any project. That's my best advice.
No, and we do that as well. So we do that when we're developing software. We do a lot of role playing, so to speak. Right. So try not to let your developer do that, but you want to have the developer wants to be involved in the conversations, of course, but the developer has a hard time looking beyond what they developed. So you want to have external people or third party people, whatever, playing with it, but doing exactly what you said. All right, now what happens if the internet goes out? What happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? And the developer should be there to hear it and hear the responses. But don't let the developer be the one actually doing it.
Correct.
Because they're never going to think beyond what they built.
And if you can get users, like the end user is going to be the key person. Right. I always say this jokingly is we pull keyword research all the time for clients, right? And they go, oh, these are the keywords I want to rank for. And then we start doing keyword research and we go, people aren't actually searching for that. It's just something you have in your head because it's an industry term. So you think everybody else knows what the industry term is and therefore is searching for it. And they go, what do you mean? And I'll give you a perfect example, right? We had a client that wanted to get ranked for power washing. That was the keywords they wanted to get ranked for. And I was like, why power washing? And they're like, well, because, we wash the outsides of people's homes and their driveways and their decks and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, so if I look at it between deck cleaning, driveway cleaning, and house cleaning, those three have 4 times more searches than power washing.
Really?
And people that are looking for power washing aren't necessarily looking for the service. Sometimes they're looking for the tool. So even part of the searches that you think you might be showing up for and getting business from are people actually searching for either how to power wash or buying a power washer. So we ended up optimizing for totally different keywords than what the person we were talking to thought we should be optimizing for. But once again, this is why this research allowed us to look into the brain of the user. Like, what is the user actually searching for?
Right.
And that's with anything, any project you're working on. Focus on the end user first and then develop backwards.
Yep, exactly. So, that's right. Who's going to be using it and then develop in reverse to before you write the first line of code, before you put the first brick in the ground or whatever, first stake in the ground, I should say, or anything like that. So scope creep is a real thing. It's a problem, but you can minimize it if you plan accordingly. And so I would say that's the biggest answer to your question. Hope we gave you a lot of ideas here because, again, every industry has it and you're not going to be able to stop it, but you can certainly help minimize it. So good luck to you. All right, let's see. Wait, what?
It's kind of...
No.
Okay.
Hold on. We've fallen for this before. All right. This seems legit.
Okay.
All right. This is from Kitchen Musician 153. Looking for guidance on my startup idea. Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Well, thank you. I hope you're doing well too. I'm a 26-year-old currently doing well in my job, but I've always dreamed of building something on my own. If things go as planned, I'd like to eventually leave my job to pursue it full time. The idea I have in mind is an employee tracking web app. It would include features like leave management, pay slips, attendance tracking, HR support, and more. Sounds like an HRO. I understand this might sound like a simple project. It doesn't, but okay. But I've noticed that many small-scale companies still rely on Excel sheets to manage employee records. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I believe this could be helpful solution for them. I'm reaching out to ask your advice. Do you think this idea is too simple or not worth pursuing? Should I go ahead and start building it or reconsider? I'd really appreciate your guidance. Thanks in advance.
Okay. So,
there's a lot of those out there.
Yeah, these already exist.
Yeah.
Even one of the Shark Tank people is a spokesperson for an app like this. Forget what it's called. But yeah, there's a bunch of apps, web, all kinds of things that manage exactly this.
I want to get to the people doing this on Excel sheets. Really? They still do this on Excel?
You would be surprised.
Actually, I probably wouldn't.
Somehow
I'm surprised yet not surprised.
But like, there's software out there that allows you to. One of the things I'll give you a perfect example of this where technology finally caught up with a need. So a friend of mine owns a home health care agency, and they only pay the health aide from the moment they arrive at the house till the moment they leave.
Sure.
Okay. So in the past, they had a software that relied on the person pushing the check-in button and check out when they left.
Okay. Which can be manipulated, right?
Only to find out that a lot of their people were actually checking in when they got into their car and checking out when they got out of the car
at home.
Right. So one of the things they wanted was
proximity tester, right?
They wanted geolocation based. So they were able to put in the addresses of the clients, and you weren't allowed to you couldn't push the check-in button until you were
near there.
Yeah. You had to be within a certain radius, right? Same thing, that software also allowed to upload employee records. So like it became a full HR management software. So time tracking, payroll, well, not payroll. They did the hours and all that stuff that would then get exported and put to a payroll company. But yes, stuff like this exists. There's always niche industries that require something that isn't there. So if I were doing this today, I would find a niche industry where someone hasn't already built all the needed features and start with that industry and then expand from there.
This is what I would do. It says that you're currently doing well in your job. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that means that you're in an industry that you know, right? It's difficult to build something in an industry you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
If you know an industry, whatever your job is, that's where you want to start.
Yep.
I would say, right? Even if it's a little saturated, build because that's the industry you know. And as you're building it, you'll learn things, et cetera, right? And become better and better. Version 2.0 will be greater than version 1. But if you know the industry already, that's the industry you want to start out in. Don't try to build something that will work for everybody. You want to build your niche. You want to build for that particular vertical, so to speak, right? That would be the better. I think that would be a good approach.
I talked to someone the other day. They found me on TikTok and reached out, and they were like, "Hey, we just need some guidance. We're building a CRM system." Okay, I'm like, "There's a million CRM systems out there," and I'm like, "What makes yours different?" And they're like, "We want to add the ability for people to check in on the CRM system when they arrive at their location." And I was like, "What made you do that?" And they're like, "We realized we had the one brother, so it was two brothers doing it, had gone through a bunch of like medical issues. And he would have to go to a PT, he had to go to a massage therapist, he had to go to, and he's like, every time that I got there, he's like, there were moments where I was sitting in a waiting room waiting and nobody knew I was there, right? So he's like, what if I just built like a calendar CRM management system where they could manage their appointments, but inside of that feature, I built a little thing that when they arrive, they just click I'm here, right?
I like that.
I did too. I was like,
it's so simple.
It is. But then the therapist, whatever, just their phone would go ding, your new patient is waiting in the lobby, right? Like, and it was such a simple thing. I was like, I can't believe there's not a CRM system that does that. And I went and looked, and there's all kinds of appointment management systems.
Right.
But there was nothing built that was like a CRM that had this as a function on top of the CRM, where you could manage the CRM
actual
side,
interaction, right?
and the marketing side and all that stuff. It was marketing on this side, appointment management client on this side. They basically took and created like a niche product that took part of this and part of this. So there's a bunch of people that don't have a full client management software, and there's a bunch of people that don't have a CRM, but something that was kind of like a hybrid was ideal for them.
I like that.
And that's the market they went after. And I'm like,
simple ideas like that, man.
And that's what I told them. And I'm like, you have a brilliant idea. Find out who else needs this. Because I'll guarantee you there are small dental offices that function the same way. There are small doctors' offices in the boondocks where there is maybe a doctor and a nurse that could benefit from this stuff. That's who you go after. And you dig in on this idea that you have and be a really big fish in a small pond. Right? Don't try to be a small fish in a giant pond. Just be the big fish in that tiny pond and own that market.
I love that. That's great.
And I kind of feel like this would be the same type of thing.
No, you're right. It could be.
So
whatever the industry is.
Correct.
Right.
Like I don't even think he needs to go after the industry he's in, but go out and do a ton of research on the type of HR app you want to create. Go on other places on Reddit. See what are contractors complaining about? What are other people complaining about that their HR apps don't do? If they have that,
lots of that.
If they have that problem, I'll guarantee you there's 10,000 other people that have that same problem.
Take it a step further. Find HR apps out there and then go look at their reviews and see what people complain about as well.
Correct. That's part of your market research. And that's how you figure out, okay, then find someone in that industry and tell them, hey, I want to do an app for free for you. And develop that app and use that as your beta tester. Right? You make no money from it. It's your first non-paid client, but they will give you real life feedback on what is lacking, what's missing.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's really cool. See, we give good advice on this show.
Sometimes we do. Sometimes we go off on rants, but sometimes we actually
we always find a way to bring it back.
I know.
So, Kitchen Musician 153. This is again always. I very rarely say it's a bad idea, right? It's definitely it's not a bad idea at all. Even in a saturated market, you can still make this work, right? If you go the niche route. So good luck to you. I think that's great. I love that you're looking to go out on your own and do your own thing. The good news is you're young enough that if you fail, okay, great, start over again, no problem.
I know.
So good luck. All right, so so let's we'll move on to the next one. So yeah, good luck to you. I hope that works. Let's see what we got here. This is from Tumbleweed Master 1651. It says, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self and the youth in terms of startup entrepreneurship and dream fulfillment? Well, if I could go back to when I was 18, I'd say buy Bitcoin, but that's a different story.
If I was 18-year-old, I would say don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. Don't be afraid to fail. In fact, again, we've said this before. You learn a lot from failing. You really do. And you don't have to fail big. You can fail small and still learn a ton. But let's see what this says. Hello, everyone. I know it's not ideal to ask for advice and insights without being able to offer something back to the community. What? Really? Why?
No, go for it.
That's kind of the whole point of. I mean,
that's how we learn.
That's how we learn. But I'm 18. Maybe they don't know that. But I'm 18 and still have little experience when it comes to being a startup entrepreneur or turning a great idea into a real business. It's my dream to create something that provides value to humanity and improve people's lives. I understand this path will be much harder than I imagine, and I'll need to make significant sacrifices to achieve this dream. That's why I'm working on making my way as strong and concrete as possible so I can stay motivated and never give up, no matter how challenging it gets. So far, you have the right attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm trying to gather as much knowledge as I can about topics like money, AI, communication, and business, because I believe the more I learn, the better my chances of finding a gap in the market where I can start building my business. That's why I'm reaching out to you. What else should I focus on? What do I need to learn? How can I keep my belief in myself strong? In 5 months, I'll finish school and I'll need to think carefully about the next steps I should take in advancing my life. What advice would you give, etc.? It goes on like that. Okay. Well, what mistakes did you make along your journey? Yada, yada, yada. All right. Well, so far you're on the right path. You're already on the right path because you have the right mindset for this, because so many people want to jump into business expecting to make a fortune on day one, and 3 months in, they're like, oh, this isn't working, and they give up, right? So when you're building a business from the ground up, right, it's going to be at least 3, 4, maybe even 5 years before you really start turning profitability, right?
And
So
it depends on the
profitable.
it depends on
Depending
the
on the
industry.
industry,
Right.
but generally speaking, it's about 3 to 5 years, and then it's this is United States. I'm not sure about other countries, maybe over in Europe, and then it's usually about 7 years before you know if that business is going to be long term, right? I think the number is if a business survives 7 years, it usually will go on 10, 15, 20 years.
Right.
But that 7-year mark is like
84% failure rate pre 5 years.
Yeah.
So 16% of businesses ever make it past the 5-year mark.
Exactly.
Right.
So, but like, what if, so I'll go first if you don't mind. So what have I learned along the way? I mean, I've had multiple businesses in my life. I was an employee for a while before technically that's not true. Technically, my very first business, if you really want to call it a business, was when I was in high school. I started the DJ business. I was a DJ for a while. Bought the equipment, would go out and do play events and whatever, weddings and things like that, and learned a lot about customer service when it came to that, which I still use some of those ideas today in my business. So the first thing I think I learned was customer service. How to deal with customers, how to deal with people, know when you want to take care of your customers and know when your customers are taking advantage of you, right? Is a very big thing. Also, I learned a lot about planning, right? Because originally I thought, hey, I would just, throw the speakers in the car, go. That doesn't happen sometimes. Sometimes you got to drive that, and this is specific to DJing, of course. You got to drive the route beforehand. Now, this is the days before Google Maps, of course, but you got to drive the route beforehand to make sure you know where you're going, because sometimes there'll be a street, Main Street over here that's a town over, but it's only 6 blocks, and the other main street's over here, and you're going to the wrong one. You're like, well, there's no event hall here, and then you realize it's the wrong one. You don't want to do that the day of the wedding, So planning becomes a very big thing that you learn as well. Allocating your resources properly. So there's all kinds of stuff that goes into when you're running your first business that you really learn very, very quickly out of the box, because what you don't know before you run a business is you have this consumer mindset, right? Where you're used to buying things and things being done for you, but now you're the one who's doing the things that need to be done. And you've never done that before. And you have to learn how to adjust your mind from the consumer mindset to the provider mindset. And that can be a very difficult thing to do. It could take some time. And you'll take some lickings. You'll get beat up quite a bit. You'll get yelled at. You'll do things wrong. You will spend nights not sleeping because of a stupid mistake that may have cost you a couple $1,000. But you'll learn, and you'll never do it again. Right? And that's some of the greatest education you can get.
Yeah, I would say if I could give somebody advice, 18-year-old, yes, learn about AI, learn about all this stuff. But the 3 things I think are the key to being able to really get any business off the ground is you need to learn people. You need to learn communication. You need to learn to understand people. You need to learn how to lead people. That is like 1, 2, 3. If you don't have that, you're going to have a hard time regardless. Right after that, learn how to do marketing, learn how to do sales. Because if you can't market and sell whatever it is you have, it'll probably not go anywhere. And like, I don't care if you have to join an MLM to learn how to sell stuff. Just go learn it somewhere. There are a bunch of training programs. There's a bunch of stuff that you can learn. There's tons of resources online where you can learn this stuff. And then the last thing is learn money management.
Very good point. Yeah.
Right? Is just because you have $1 doesn't mean you have $1. Just because you owe $1 doesn't mean you really owe $1. Right? And understand how money really flows, because money isn't a product or a thing. Money is stuff that moves. It's almost liquid. Right? And there's a bunch of stuff you can do while not having money, but you can find other ways to get it done, right? So like creative about your money management And when things are going well, make sure you put money aside, don't spend.
Yeah.
Because for every upturn, there's a downturn. And the sooner you may not see it coming. Nobody saw the '08 crash.
Yeah. Right.
Really, like, yes, there were people that saw it coming, but I can't tell you how many clients I had that started contracting all of their stuff at the end of '08, beginning of '09, that are no longer around. And part of that was when things were really good, some of them were out there buying a new car every 2 years.
Oh, I know. It's crazy,
all
right?
this stuff instead of putting that money aside. And if they would have had that money in '09 and they would have put that into marketing, they would have saved
themselves.
They would have saved themselves, right?
All they needed was like probably 6-8 months.
Yeah.
Would have been able to save themselves. But they didn't do it.
So I would say those three things for me are probably the key things.
And money is a good point. And so you're right. People, especially people that have never been in business, a lot of times don't understand money and how it works. And they don't understand how to get money, how to get access to money and things like that. So let me give you a real quick, easy way. Okay, go ahead.
Borrow money when you don't need it. Go get a line of credit when you don't need it, because when you need it, you won't get it.
Okay, so I was agreed. Yes, the understand the difference between a line of credit and a loan. A line of credit is I have access to this money when I need the money. So $50,000 line of credit means that I don't owe anything right now, but if next week I need to get $10,000, I can just go and take it out of that account, and then I'll start paying interest on it. As opposed to a $50,000 loan means that there's $50,000 now in your bank account. And you're paying interest on that $50,000 every day.
And you're having to make the payments.
And you have to make the payments on it. So understand the difference between those two. I mean, a lot of 18-year-olds won't understand that, right? But here's a trick. Here's a, I'm not going to call it free, but here's a delayed money trick that I used. I learned this very early on in my career, but you got to be disciplined to do it properly. It has to do with credit cards. Okay. Never, ever, 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 ever pay interest on a credit card. Okay. Never do it. But if you do it right, you can actually get a loan from your credit card for a short period of time and not pay any interest on it. And here's how you do it. Let's say, and I advise this to anyone who's starting a business, you need a little bit of capital, not a lot. Don't go $100,000 on this, right? But if you need 10 grand and you have the line of credit on your credit card, here's how you do it. Let's say your credit card month ends on the 5th of the month, right? That's when your billing period ends. And let's just start with a balance of 0. Okay. There's nothing's owed on it. It ends on the 5th. On the 6th, 7th, or 8th, or whatever, use your credit card and buy $10,000 worth of stuff that you need for the business. Okay. Now the clock starts ticking, but guess what? You're not paying any interest yet. That billing statement will end on the 5th of the following month. So now you have 30 days of $10,000 in your pocket, basically, right? You spent $10,000. That bill won't be due for another 20 days or so. So you'll get 50 to 60 days of using $10,000 for your business that you won't pay a dime in interest on. But make sure you're capable of paying that $10,000 when the bill becomes due.
So I've taken that a step further where I have to pay a little bit of interest, where I will, I'll give you an example. We had to buy a piece of equipment. The equipment was like $13,000. And when I looked at financing it, they offered me like a 13.5 interest rate on financing. Correct. And this is back
terrifying.
But this is back when interest rates were good, right? So I calculated that I would need 6 months to pay off this piece of equipment. So what I did was I went and swiped a credit card for that piece of equipment. We made a payment on that the first 30 days, and then we rolled the balance over to a 0% APR credit card for 6 months. So we basically financed the purchase of that equipment at 0% interest or 3%.
So that's getting harder and harder to do, because what they do now is, even though you'll have 0% of promotion for 24 months or something like that, they're going to charge you 4% on the transaction.
That's why I said, like, it was nominal.
You're paying 4% still, which is today a great deal. But but you can do so there are tricks, right? But if you don't understand money, you won't be able to do them.
You have to.
Everyone thinks money is what I have in my pocket or in my bank account. No, it's not.
Money is what you have access to.
Yeah, it's what you have access to. Exactly.
Right? If you know. And I always remember I was talking to a buddy of ours, and it was just after golf. We were sitting around talking, and he's like, once people understand how money works, he's like, it's easy to make money because if you have access to any type of money, you can take that money and use it to make more money.
Yeah.
And he's like, the moment people understand that is when they stop living within the constraints of what they have in their pocket.
Right.
But the problem is most people, and I did this when I was young, I was working like a maniac and I got lines of credits that as a 23-year-old, I never should have had.
Oh, I did it too. Oh my God. I had horrible credit card debt when I was younger.
I swiped and I bought the newest TV and the newest at the time DVD players and like everything. And then all of a sudden one day the job came to an end.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah. And now what do you do?
And I was like, wait a minute. Like I had already spent next 6 months worth of paychecks that were sitting on credit cards that I had planned on paying off.
Yep.
I had to take a job that paid half of what I was making before. Well, guess what? I was paying boatloads in credit card.
Yeah.
Like it ended up taking me almost a year and a half to get out of that credit card debt that was supposed to take me 3 months.
Yeah.
But it was because I didn't understand how the money worked. Now, if I would have taken $50K and I would have bought something that I could sell for $75K, that would have been a no-brainer. Now I'm borrowing money to make money.
Doesn't do you any good when it's sitting on your wall.
No.
Meaning that you bought an item and it's sitting there, or even it's just sitting in your house, to be honest.
It's funny because someone asked me the other day how much I have in my savings account. And I told them I don't have a savings account. They were like, what do you mean? And I'm like,
that money's on the street earning more money.
Yeah,
that's reinvested in my business or something like
correct.
that.
It's either if I'm not putting it in my business, I'm putting it in the stock market, or I'm putting it into crypto. I'm putting it into something where it has a chance of earning any type of legitimate.
Yeah, you know what the savings account is? The savings account is money on an E-Trade account or something like that, where it can be liquefied very quickly.
Correct. And they were asking me like, "Aren't you worried about not having access to it?" And I'm like, "I can't tell you a single stock that I own,
right? That
I can't have that cash.
Apple's
in hand.
not crashing tomorrow. Ain't happening.
No, like I can have that money in hand 3 days from today.
Yep.
Like I can't tell you of any example where I couldn't swipe a credit card for 3 days worth
Whereas
of wait
my savings
or 5 days.
account, I'm going to get 0.02% interest.
Correct.
Meanwhile, the bank's lending it at 8.
Yes. Like and this is where people need to start thinking about money differently what was it? Robert Kiyosaki that said, is your home really an asset?
Yeah.
Right? Because by definition, an asset is something that makes you money.
Right.
Well, okay. So yeah, it's an asset because it's what builds most people's wealth, right? Like you're paying off a loan.
Right.
By the time it's done, you will have paid. Most people don't even do the mortgage calculation, and they don't realize that if they borrow to buy a $400,000 house, by the time the mortgage is done, they've paid $600,000 for that house.
What could you have done with that money in the market?
Right.
Right.
And they go, yeah, but now I have a $400,000 or $500,000 asset, right? Like,
well, I mean, it probably appreciated over time.
But let's say it's worth $600,000.
Yeah.
Growing,
you paid $600
growing
for it.
30% in 30 years is not.
But you paid $600 for it.
Correct. Like, so you really don't have an asset.
You just have a savings account.
Correct. That happens to be a house.
And whereas if you took that $600,000 and invested it over a period of time, what would that have garnished, right?
Correct. Like it's very interesting. And I had a guy on my the Crap No One Tells You podcast, a financial advisor. His name is Chris Nelson, and we used to get into these debates all the time. And I would tell him like, why wouldn't I pay my mortgage off faster? Why wouldn't I make extra payment on my house? And he literally they have this software that they pull up. And he said, okay, look, here is your 30-year mortgage rate. This is your current interest rate. If you pay down an extra X number, and he was able to plug in whatever number I wanted for additional payments. And he goes, this is how much you've saved in interest payments and all that stuff. And he goes, let's say instead of putting that in there,
you put it in a market
you put it in the S&P 500.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Which is always steadily growing.
Let's say you just took that money that you made in additional payments at the end of the time and you put it into the S&P 500. And he's like, okay, so now 30 years from now, you sell your house. You're going to get whatever dollar amount that house is worth in 30 years, regardless of how much you owe on it.
And let's just say you save $20,000 in interest.
Correct.
Right.
So what was interesting was that regardless of what numbers I plugged in, I was always better off taking the money and putting it into the market.
Sometimes significantly
correct,
better off
than paying off my mortgage faster.
Yeah.
And it blew my mind, right? And then I realized I always say, people don't understand compounding interest. And
Einstein said it's the greatest force in the universe.
Correct. And it was one of those where I looked at it and said, I guess I don't understand compounding interest as well as I did, because I thought the savings off the house and being able to save 20 grand by paying it off 5 years earlier and then taking the extra money and putting it into the S&P at that point in time would yield me a better result. But it doesn't, because the compounding on that small amount over a long period of time is far greater than a lump sum over a shorter amount of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like, it was just fascinating. But once again, this is where we are not taught about money. And you learn the hard way as a business owner how money really moves and what it means to have and not have money. Yeah. Versus having access to money and not having access to money. Like they're two totally different things.
Exactly.
Access to money can be far better than having the money, right? Like if you have access to $44 billion, you can buy Twitter.
Right.
Right? Like,
yeah, you don't need it in your hands.
Correct.
Right.
And that's the kind of thing you learn as a business owner. Like even if you're a landscaper, you need a new piece of equipment. You don't have to have the cash in hand to go buy that piece of equipment. If you've taken care of things like your credit score and basic things, you could go finance that piece of equipment over 5 years, take the depreciation, use that piece of equipment to make you even more money.
Yep.
And it didn't really cost you a penny out of pocket.
Yeah, you're able to use it to earn money now,
correct.
Better profits.
And it's those types of things that as a business owner, you need to understand that sometimes the access to the money is far more important than the money you have on hand.
Yeah. And for someone who's 18 years old trying to get out on their own, that's probably one of the most important things to learn is how money works and how to use money to your benefit. I would say one more thing on this. Don't go into a business thinking that you're always going to be the one doing whatever. If it's a service, you're going to be the one doing the service. If it's a product, you're the one building the product. You got to go into it where you're doing that initially, but your ultimate goal is to have other people doing it for you, and you're managing those people. You're out there getting the sales, you're building the brand. As soon as you're able to have other people doing that work where you continue running the business, because if you are stuck making the product or doing the service, you will never scale, you'll never grow.
Your only job at some point becomes growing the business.
Right.
Not actually
doing the business.
Yes.
Exactly.
This is the working on or in the business.
Right.
Your goal should be to be working on the business as soon as possible.
Right.
Because the sooner you can do that, the bigger chance of you succeeding is.
Yeah.
It's the people that get stuck working in the business that hit all the bottlenecks and ultimately a lot of times end up being solopreneurs or having a couple of people and that's it.
Yep.
Because they're so busy putting up the drywall instead of hiring the drywall guy while they're out selling the next job.
Exactly.
Right? So.
All right. I think that'll wind up being it. Let's see where we at here. I think that'll be it for today. This was a good one to end on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like this. This is good.
I'm thinking is like, how long are Joe Rogan's podcasts? Like, I don't think I've ever
3 hours.
Like, how the hell do they sit around for 3 hours? And
oh, I could do this for another hour with you easily.
I know, but still, like,
are you saying I'm not entertaining? I'm not fun to sit with?
You are, but still, like, how often does he do them?
Yeah, but it's just you and I, right? Whereas he has new guests and this and that every day.
I still get it.
A couple days a week, I would think.
Yeah, but that's a lot.
Yeah, but if that's all you do,
yeah, I guess.
Right? You're telling me you're telling me that you couldn't sit at a bar for 3 hours with people just talking and shooting the bull?
I don't know.
I could do that easily.
Really?
I'd love to do that for a job.
I guess
It'd be fun. It'd be great
yes.
to learn from. Because remember, it's not just especially in Rogan's world, from what I see anyway.
But even that, like you're talking like Lex Fried, like a bunch of these guys.
Yeah, sure.
Any of these podcasters that can do this for hours upon end. Like, it's impressive.
But they're doing something. They're doing things a little bit differently than we are, where they're also learning from other people, right? Like, Rogan has on like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Brian Cox, I think his name is, right. The
Rogan brings on anybody.
That's what I'm saying. But like the astrophysicists who go and tell them all these great things about the universe. I could listen to those guys all day, all day. I'll sit there for 6 hours listening to those guys. Are you kidding me?
I have to admit, and I hate to say this on anything that's being recorded, I actually went down the flat Earth rabbit hole the other day.
No, you did not.
Yes, I did.
Oh my Lord!
I probably spent.
Did they convince you?
No.
Okay.
But like, some of the arguments that they bring up are like somewhat convincing.
They're so tailored. They are tailored arguments to very specific things.
But the fact that I went down this rabbit hole for probably at least 45 minutes or an hour, and I was actually like, I could see how they came to this conclusion. Like, I don't agree with it. But
okay. Like, I will say that if that's all the information you have, yes, I can see how you came to that conclusion.
Yeah, but it's like algorithmic rabbit holes.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yes, sure. Of course.
Like that and I know, we've talked about social media and all these types of things and algorithms, and like, I can see how someone starts down a rabbit hole and then like gets to a point where they're listening to something that is so obscure, but because they've been fed all this other information before they got there, all of a sudden this thing now makes sense based on everything else you listened to.
Right.
Right. And you're like, yeah, but if you heard this first, you would be like, no.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, but back to this, what we're talking about is you can go and find information about how money really works. You can go find information about how business really works.
Yeah.
And this is where the algorithms work to your benefit, is once you find good information, a lot of times they keep feeding you more and more
information
of the good type of information.
Sure.
The problem is people often start in the wrong places.
Well, they don't know where to start.
Correct. So I always say, give them crap. I don't really care. People like Cody Sanchez, people like Alex Hermosi, like if you start with that as the top of your rabbit hole, eventually you're going to get introduced to other people that really explain things in a much better way sometimes than these people do. But like, if you're looking for stuff on business, start at those top tiers and see what else pops up on your feed. There's a bunch of other creators out there that are really good, that explain business. Like, I watched this podcast it's a YouTube channel. I forget what the name is, but the guy is basically a contractor, and he built his contracting business to like, I think it was like 10 million in the first 2 years.
Wow. And
then he did 100 million in his first 10 years.
What?
In contracting.
That's huge.
And he is literally teaching people what he did. He's like, this is how I did it. This is what I did. This is how I dealt with these things. And I'm like, this is priceless information.
No
like,
kidding.
This should be a university college class. Like, this is real life, how you went from having nothing to building $100 million business in 10 years. Like, that's almost unheard of. But they're not flashy. They're not selling courses. They're not doing any of this stuff. He's literally just laying the information out there.
Yeah.
But because it's not fancy, people don't pay attention to it.
That's crazy. Well, I guess they don't know, right?
Yeah, correct.
You know what? I take it back. I think it's less about they don't know. I don't think they're serious, right?
Yeah.
I think people that are serious about being in business, like this kid sounds like he's serious, right? He'll watch that stuff.
Yeah.
Because he's serious. He's already laid out. I already know this is going to be a lot of work. I already know that this is going to be long hours. Okay. I'm ready for it.
Yes.
He'll watch those videos. But the people that passively, hey, maybe I'll start a business. Oh no, this isn't entertaining. Right. Oh no, they're not serious about it.
It's even like that. Who's that money guy? Ramsey? What the hell is his name?
Gordon Ramsay. No, that's the chef.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
He gives the most boring money advice ever, right? Like it's spend less than what you earn, put money in whatever funds. Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey, yeah. He's not boring. He's okay.
It is no, it is the most boring money advice ever because it's not exciting.
It's not
right?
exciting, no. But
It is, but it's common sense. Like you and I hear of stories quite frequently where there's like a mailman that passes away and his family finds out he was worth $2.8 million.
Yeah, right.
Right. And what did he do? He took 10% of his earnings and bought into the S&P 500 and he did that for 60 years. And, somehow he just accumulated wealth by spending less than what he earned, right? Like getting to money doesn't always have to be fancy, right? Like I tell people there's a guy that I met at the cigar shop a few years ago. I think actually he just recently passed away. But I remember when I was having a conversation with him and I asked him, like, what do you do? I'm like, because you always drive these nice cars. He had a brand new Cadillac. He worked with his sons. He owned a multi-million-dollar house. He was smoking $20 cigars every day. And I'm like, what did you do? Like, you can't live like this at your age if you didn't do something.
Yeah.
And he goes, I've been selling roofing underlayment and screws for the last 50 years. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, I found a niche market in roof underlayments. I can sell them to the roofers at a much better price than what they can get at the large stores. He's like, it took me 10 years to get my base clientele. He's like, but now I have about 100 roofers. Every roofing job they do, all I do is I ship them underlayment and I ship them nails. That's it. I'm like, what?
I made a fortune out of that.
And he's like, once I got to a certain stage, I had my own underlayment manufactured.
Yeah.
He's like, so I no longer had to buy it from a middleman. Right. He's like, I was now buying it manufacturing direct.
That's
like,
so cool.
And I'm like, wait a minute. And I'm like, how much are you worth?
When he was 18, if you told him that's what he would be doing, I'm not going to do that. What am I going to do that for? It's so boring.
It's boring, right?
It's money.
Who is one of the few female billionaires in the U.S.?
I don't know that. I know the answer to that.
The self-made billionaires. The lady that started ABC.
Oh, okay.
She is one of the few self-made female billionaires.
Okay.
And she was in the construction industry selling materials to contractors.
Is that right?
I forget what her name is, but like, you're going to look it up?
Oh, why not? What the hell?
Everybody knows Oprah and all that flashy stuff.
Oh, right. Of course.
Yep. Diane Hendricks.
There's Diane Hendricks. There she is.
Co-founder and chair of ABC Supply.
Wow. That's crazy.
Right?
Distributor of roofing, siding, and windows.
Yep.
Wow.
And Judy Love is another one.
Yeah.
Loves rest stops.
Yep.
Right? Like, is it fancy? Is owning a rest stop fancy? No. It is horrible work. Like, can you imagine starting your first rest stop?
Oh, wow. Martha Stewart was the first self-made female billionaire.
Doesn't surprise me. But she also did a lot of it through investments and licensing.
Right. Crazy.
But yeah, it's sometimes the boring work.
So listen to the boring.
Yes.
Listen to the boring. No, seriously. And I do think that someone who really wants to do something like that will listen to those people. It's the people that are kind of like, sure, why not?
Did you ever listen to Diaries of a CEO?
Yeah, sure.
It's fascinating to hear some of the people that come on there, and you're like, you did what? You did what for how long?
Right.
Like, because we see the final product with a lot of these people. We never got to see, like, do you remember that photo that was circulating of Jeff Bezos in his garage?
Oh, yeah.
With the Amazon sign,
yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. Nobody thinks of that. Nobody thinks of him literally putting books in boxes and taping them up and putting shipping labels on them. Everybody sees him as Jeff Bezos, the guy on the yacht.
Right.
Right? Well,
how do you think he got that?
Yeah, right. And who's Wozniak and like all these guys, like, go look up some of these people that you look at today and you admire and you go, wow, I want to be like them one day.
How'd they get there?
Go look at how they started.
Yeah.
Like, Google's first headquarters was in the garage of their parents' house, if I remember correctly, right? Like, Apple was like it
was also a garage thing where he walked around with a wooden box and a screen going to the banks, and they were like, get out of here, kid.
Right.
You don't know what you're doing.
But a lot of people forget, like, it starts with the grind in the beginning, and like very few people, do we hear these success stories where someone came up with an idea for an app and, like the Facebook stories.
Far and few between.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
But that is the small portion of people that actually made it.
Yeah.
The septic guy is one of my favorite stories, though. We'll get to that at some point.
Yeah, we'll do that next time.
Yeah, there's a multimillionaire in the septic industry, and it's fascinating to see how he got there.
We'll talk about that. I like to hear that. All right.
So
let's call it a day. No, this is good, but yes, I love hearing. Like I said, I say this all the time. I love hearing young people, especially 18 years old, ready to hit the streets and start their own. Awesome, go do it, man. That's fantastic. Right into the show, we can help you along the way. You want some info? Gotcha. We'll help you out.
Yeah.
Love to hear your stories and what's going on. So, all right, with that, man. Have a great weekend. We'll talk next time.
Sounds like a plan.
See ya.